वेरी गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू। कैसे हैं सब लोग? ऋतिक, भूमिका, सुधांशु, सुशील, मिस हुसैन, दीक्षा, दर्शन, संकरन, ईशान and all the student who have joined or yet to join. So very warm good evening. So the today topic is the written GST returns, and the second day we have the second day, correct? So the point is we have completed GSTR 3B and we have completed GSTR 1 also. Today we are starting with the GSTR 2A, 2B, what is the concept, and at the end we will cover all the statutory update given by the institute. That would be the agenda. And if you have any question with respect to written, you can ask. If time permit, we will also visit to the GST portal. So first, let me start with the. So GSTR 1, we had the discussion. Let me start with the. Regarding the Rule 60, read in section 38. Inward supply. See, one thing you should understand that when the GST was introduced, so that at that point of time, July 17, there was a concept of GSTR 1 furnished by the supplier. It will be appear in the GSTR 2. Point to be noted, I'm writing the GSTR 2, and then he will accept, reject, modify, and the ultimate return would be the GSTR 3. That was day one concept. Now, this was and GSTR 3 was not available since long. So in place of the GSTR 3, they have introduced GSTR 3B. In place of the GSTR 2, initially they have introduced GSTR 2A, and in some time later on, they have also introduced GSTR 2B. Plus, with effect from 1st October 2022. With effect from 1st October 2022, all these return system which was in the law, GSTR 2, GSTR 3, that has been omitted. So when we will read the statutory update, you will see multiple section, multiple rules, multiple forms has been omitted. And what is the reason to omit? That to align the GST return system in the law, to align the GST return system in the law with the actual GST return system given at the GST portal. आप समझ पा रहे मैं क्या कहना चाह रहा हूं? GSTR 1, 2, 3 सिर्फ लॉ में था, कभी एक्चुअल आया ही नहीं. और एक्चुअल क्या था? GSTR 1, GSTR 3B. तो वो जो एक्सेस लॉ में रिक्वायरमेंट लिखी हुई थी GSTR 2 की, GSTR 1A की, GSTR 3 की, वो सारी ऑमिट कर दी. उसके लिए मल्टीपल सेक्शन, multiple rules and forms has been omitted with effect from October 22. ये बात क्लियर है सबको? अब क्या हुआ? When this changes was made, then correspondingly rules etc. has been omitted, and also some changes has been made to the rules also. What is the GSTR 2A? What is the GSTR 2B? We are discussing this point. Before that, can anybody tell me what is the GSTR 2A and what is the GSTR 2B? आप मुझे GSTR 2B के रेफरेंस में तो ITC का प्रोविजन भी बता सकते हो. You can also tell me the ITC provision which is effective from 1/1/2022 linked to any of the forms. क्या क्वेश्चन है मेरा? My question is, if you are having any knowledge about GSTR 2A and GSTR 2B, kindly share that view. Also, what is the requirement of ITC or what is the condition of ITC with respect to these forms? अगर आप मुझे 2 क्वेश्चन का आंसर करें and then we will start, you will able to understand, मतलब कि आप इसको प्रैक्टिकली लिंक कर सकते हो. मैं आपके आंसर को देख रहा हूँ. आई थिंक इन्होंने आंसर दिया अक्टूबर 22 से. बेटा ये सारे चेंज हो गए, GSTR 2, GSTR, और चेंज मतलब ये सब सेक्शन जो थे ना रूल्स में, एक्ट में, इन सबको ओमिट कर दिया, इन सबको ओमिट कर दिया वर्षा शेठे. मेरा क्वेश्चन है, डू यू नो व्हाट इज द GSTR 2A एंड व्हाट इज द GSTR 2B, और ITC के लिए हम कौन सा फॉर्म देखते हैं? फॉर टेकिंग द ITC which forms we require to see? दोनों में डिफरेंस क्या है? व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन GSTR 2A and GSTR 2B? My next question, that which form you will use for taking the input tax credit? Yes, Aisa. Because this omission was required. Reason, the law was talking about something different thing, but practically we are not doing that exactly. So that is the reason of omission, and that is also required because sometimes it may be challenged in the court of law. Correct. So now let me move. What is the GSTR 2A and what is the GSTR 2B? And before that, let me visit the portal also. Return dashboard. I'm going to the return dashboard. So this is the GST portal in front of you, and it is the return dashboard. See, GSTR 2A and GSTR 2B. What is written in the GSTR 2A? Auto drafted detail for view purpose only. And what is written for the GSTR 2B? The auto drafted ITC statement for the month of the GSTR 2B. So one thing is clear, that which form we will use for the input tax credit? GSTR 2B. And also, if I recall the 16 subsection 2, if I recall the section 16 subsection 2, that there was a condition that it has been communicated to the recipient, and which form? In the GSTR 2B. Now, what are the details coming in the GSTR 2A or GSTR 2B? Let's see. The details are same. Then what is the difference? Going to discuss what is the difference. But before moving to the difference, try to understand what is the detail of the GSTR 2A as well as GSTR 2B. B2B invoices, credit note, debit note, any amendment or any amendment to B2B invoices or any amendment to the debit credit note. Then ISD credit, amendment to the ISD credit. So TDS credit, amendment to the TDS credit, TCS credit. Okay. Then last is import of goods or bill of entry from overseas and import of the goods from SEZ unit or developer on the bill of entry. So क्या detail है? एक बार quickly revise करते हैं. GSTR 2A will contain the B2B invoices, debit credit note, amendment to B2B or amendment to debit credit note. This is the part A. What is the part B? ISD credit. What is the ISD? We have discussed basic concept about ISD, not required to have the detailed understanding on the ISD. So, ISD credit. Okay. Any amendment? Then part C, TDS or the TCS credit. You remember that we have discussed in the registration chapter that TDS or the slash TCS, e-commerce operator or government. Then last is if I'm importing the goods on bill of entry. There are two categories of the import, either from outside India or from SEZ unit or developer. Then it is also called as import of goods, in which we are paying IGST and we are able to claim the ITC. These details are coming in the GSTR 2A. So let's move. Any question on the GSTR 2A? अभी मैंने आपको क्या explain किया? Only GSTR 2A. Now I will explain GSTR 2B. क्या content है? And then we will move the difference between 2A and 2B. ठीक है, इतना मुझे explain करने दीजिए. But meanwhile, if you have any specific question on the GSTR 2A, kindly ask. What is the IceGate? So basically, I can say the IceGate is the portal GST, like for GST. What is the gst.gov.in? We have the portal of the GST. Similarly, custom has provided one portal for making the payment of custom duty, for making the payment of whatever the tax is applicable at the time of import. That will be the portal of the custom, which is called as IceGate. So one thing is clear, which document we will use to claim the ITC? Isan, which document we will use to claim the ITC? Answer is GSTR 2B. Then what is the use of the GSTR 2A? It was earlier in the law that you will use the GSTR 2A, but from 1/1/2022, the law has been amended. 16 subsection 2 clause AA was inserted and rule 36(4) was also substituted, and after 1/1/2022, the concept of 2A has been shifted to 2B for ITC. ये पार्ट आप हमेशा याद रखना, कौन सा डॉक्यूमेंट यूज करेंगे आईटीसी के लिए, कब से यूज करेंगे एंड क्यों यूज करेंगे. क्यों यूज करेंगे? Why we will use the GSTR 2B? Because of 16 subsection 2 clause AA. Read with rule 36(4). Yes. अंशिका गुप्ता. बेटा आप नए दिख रहे हो, मेरे को ज्यादा चैट नहीं होती. काइंडली मतलब रेगुलरली बात कीजिए, रेगुलरली डिस्कशन कीजिए. Varsha, if you already paid the GST and it's not showing, then what is the solution? No solution. You can't claim the ITC. As per the law, you can't claim the ITC. Now, let me move to the GSTR 2B. What is the GSTR 2B? GSTR 2B is a static document and it is a dynamic document. One difference I have told you. What is the difference? GSTR 2A is a dynamic document. GSTR 2B is a static document. Static means fixed on a particular date. After that, it will never change. After that, it will never change. But GSTR 2A is going to be changed on daily basis. Whenever my supplier files the GSTR 1, it will be updated in the GSTR 2A. Whenever my supplier files the GSTR 1, it will be updated in the GSTR 2. He will file today, it will be updated today. He will file tomorrow, it will be updated tomorrow. So the 2A will not fix on any date. It is going to be changed on every date, subject to the filing of supplier, my supplier. Same. If the return of Jan is filed in the today date, my GSTR2A will update the January month purchase. In simple term, I can say the GSTR2A and the GSTR2B both will have my inward supply. Basically, what is these? ये मेरी purchase बताता है. These are my purchases only. These are my inward supply made from registered party. Correct now. So, if the supplier filed the GSTR1 of any month on any date, respective month will updated in the GSTR2A. अब बात करते हैं 2B की. Now try to understand 2B. The 2B will be fixed on a particular date. When it is being fixed, listen carefully. If my supplier file GSTR1 by due date, let's say we are talking about the June month. What is the due date of the June month? If my supplier is filing the GSTR1 on monthly basis, and if my supplier has opted QRMP, can you please tell me what is the due date of the GSTR1 for monthly taxpayer and for quarterly taxpayer? आप लोग मुझे बताइए कि GSTR1 की ड्यू डेट क्या है फॉर मंथली एंड फॉर क्वार्टरली टैक्सपेयर. हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, राइट? Very nice. All are correct. In case of monthly, it is 11th of next month. Like for the month of the June, my GSTR1 ka due date is 11th July for monthly taxpayer. And for quarterly taxpayer, it is 13 after the end of the quarter. Meaning thereby 13 July for the QRMP taxpayer. In that case, so either the supplier will file the R1 by 11th or IFF / quarterly GSTR1. I'm using both the word. If the case is month 1, suppose it is of April, will there be GSTR1 for the quarterly taxpayer? No, it will be IFF. For M1 and M2, there would be IFF. What is the due date of IFF? Same, 13. And for month 3, after the end of the quarter, there would be the GSTR1 by QRMP. It always due date of IFF or R1. In case of the QRMP, the due date is 13. Therefore, the 14th is the date by which the GSTR2B would be able to generate. You will be able to generate the GSTR2B on a particular date, 14th. Now, whether you download on 14th or 15th or after 1 month or after 1 year, that 2B would remain same. It will not be changed. That 2B will remain same, and that is the reason we are calling, or it is being called as an static document. It is not going to be changed on any date. Therefore, it is being given the name, the static document. Now, regarding the GSTR2B, let me talk about some more point. Regarding the GSTR2B, if the supplier file by the due date, what is the due date? So we know that 11 or 13. If the supplier filed the GSTR1 by 11th or 13th, GSTR1 or IFF file by 11 or 13, then it will be updated in the GSTR2B, and you can see the transaction on the 14th in the GSTR2B. Which month we are talking about? We are talking about the June month. Let's say if the supplier filed the GSTR1 of June on 14th July. this transaction will not be covered in the June GSTR to be. मैं रिपीट कर रहा हूं, अगर सप्लायर ने GSTR1 आफ्टर द ड्यू डेट फाइल किया है और मंथली और क्वार्टरली कुछ भी, in that case the transaction will not appear in current month to be, it will goes to the next month to be. Is it clear? एक बार अभी मुझे इतना बताइए, ये बात क्लियर हुई? We'll do further discussion also, but please confirm, is this clear to everyone? Is this clear to everyone? Now first let me go to the GSTR to be content. GSTR to be में क्या क्या आता है? Let me see any question if you have. तो पहले मैं क्वेश्चन का क्लियर सर, यस सर, इट्स क्लियर. डायनेमिक टू बी से एंड आईटीसी, यस यस. सुमन गोयल, मिस्टर सुमन, मिसेस सुमन गोयल, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. दर्शन ऋतिक क्लियर, मनीषा क्लियर, चंचल क्लियर, भूमिका क्लियर, कविता, राजीव क्लियर, दीक्षा क्लियर, वैशाली बिंदल क्लियर. ठीक है राजीव. सो अब मैं एक बार आगे बढ़ता हूं. लेट मी डिस्कस अबाउट द कंटेंट ऑफ GSTR to be and then we'll move again to the GSTR to be about the month wise and about the theory provision. क्या बोलते हैं, बात करते हैं एक बार. नहीं, मैं सेक्शन 50 की बात ही नहीं कर रहा हूँ, पेमेंट वाउचर की बात ही नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं कुछ भी प्रोवाइजर की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ. मैं तो सिंपली बात कर रहा हूँ GSTR 2A और 2B में क्या डिफरेंस है. अगर ट्रांजेक्शन सप्लायर फाइल, तो यहाँ सेक्शन 50 इंटरेस्ट की बात कैसे हो गई बेटा, मैं समझ नहीं पाया हूँ. भूमिका, आप ऐसा क्यों बोल रहे हो? पेमेंट चैप्टर की बात कर रहा हूं मैं यहाँ पे, सेक्शन 50. हाँ ईशान, अगर if the supplier file the GSTR1, let's say for the month of the June, it is being furnished on the 14th July, will it come in the same month, June month GSTR to be? No sir. Reason, because it is being furnished after the due date, so it will goes to the next month GSTR to be, which is July to be. ठीक है, absolutely correct Kisan, your understanding is perfect. Now let's move to the again Excel sheet. What is this Excel sheet? This Excel sheet I have downloaded from the portal for GSTR to be of the month of the June. Now see, what are the details is being captured. Let me show you. ITC available and ITC not available. Okay. B2B amendment, credit debit note, B2B amendment in the credit debit note, ISD amendment, import of the goods and import of the goods from SEZ unit. All the details which we have discussed in the GSTR 2A, same details are in GSTR 2B. So there is no difference in the content. The only difference is that the 2A or 2B, which details will appear in which particular period. So अब हम एक बार वापस थ्योरी में जाते हैं. So what is the point which I have discussed? Let me again discuss with all of you. The GSTR 2B is a auto drafted static containing the details of ITC and shall consist of the details of outward supply furnished by the supplier other than QRMP. कौन सी डिटेल? अगर मंथली टैक्स पेयर है तो जो प्रीसीडिंग मंथ का GSTR1 है उसकी ड्यू डेट के बाद, इट मींस if we are talking about May month, what is the due date for May in case of monthly? It is 11th June, right? So if the GSTR1 furnished from 12th June to 11th July. See, try to understand the GSTR2B of every month. So currently we are talking about the June month GSTR2B. It will consist of the outward supply furnished in the GSTR1 in between which date? After the due date of the preceding month, that is 12th, 11th is the due date. So I'm talking about 12th June onwards. And due date of the current month. June month ka due date kya hai? 11th July. So in between, any GSTR1 is furnished by the supplier. Any, please point to be noted, कोई भी GSTR1 furnish करेगा, then the details which is being furnished in the GSTR1 will be updated, will appear in the June GSTR2B. ये बात समझ में आई? एक बार कंफर्म करना, ये बात समझ में आई? Hansika, we are talking about the supplier GSTR1 and 2A2B of the recipient. So he is for not furnishing GSTR1 in time, but whenever he will furnish, it will be added in 3B. So आप दोनों अलग अलग बात करो. हम सप्लायर का जब भी R1 फाइल करेगा, तो सप्लायर ने अगर ड्यू डेट में फाइल नहीं किया तो रिसिपिएंट को ITC नहीं मिलेगा, लेकिन उसने जब भी फर्निश किया वो रिपोर्ट करेगा ना सप्लाई, then he has to pay the taxes accordingly. Suppose he is not furnishing, then there is a different issue. समझ में आया? एक बार बताना बच्चा, मैं रिपीट कर दूंगा क्योंकि सारे पॉइंट आपको क्लियर होने चाहिए, बिकॉज ऑल दीज पॉइंट आर प्रैक्टिकली इंपॉर्टेंट. जब तक आप इसको प्रैक्टिकली नहीं समझेंगे ना, कितना भी थ्योरी याद कर लेना, आप लिख नहीं पाएंगे एग्जाम. एंड इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड प्रॉपरली, whatever the language you will use doesn't matter, because जब आप सही लिख देंगे ना तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि लैंग्वेज आपने क्या यूज की है. हाँ, यहां तक क्लियर है? लिटिल ट्रिकी बट यस सर, अंडरस्टूड. ठीक है. If filed on the due date, then it will appear in the same month. Now, so you do one exercise with me. Now you do one exercise with me. Let's say, can you please tell me if the October 22 GSTR1 is being furnished on the 15th December 22 GSTR1 of October 22 is being furnished in on 15th December. आप मुझे बताएं, this transaction will appear in which month GSTR2B? I'll appreciate if you will give the correct answer. If the October 22 GSTR1 is furnished on the 15th December 22 GSTR, so GSTR1 is being furnished on 15th December, तो आप मुझे बताएं ये ट्रांजेक्शन रिसिपिएंट के कौन से मंथ के 2B में जाएगा? वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. एंड लेट मी टेल यू दैट जो भी करेक्ट आंसर देगा ना, इट मींस उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग बिल्कुल क्लियर है. आप लोगों ने अभी मुझे जवाब दिया, यू ऑल हैव गिवन द रिप्लाई दैट इट इज क्लियर, बट द आंसर ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन विल टेल हाउ मच यू आर क्लियर अबाउट द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ द GSTR2B. My God, great. The first right answer is from मैं भी एक बार सोच लेता हूँ मैं गलत नहीं हो जाऊं. So the first right answer is by Manisha and Ritik Prajapati. दो आंसर मुझे सही मिले हैं, बाकी जो भी पार्टिसिपेंट है जिन्होंने भी आंसर दिया वो सही नहीं है. Sudhanshu, right. Varsha, you have written multiple month. My question is only for a particular month. My question is not for all the month. My question is only for October 22. The GSTR 1 is being furnished in the 15th December. You have to tell me in which month it will appear in the GSTR 2B. GSTR 2A will happen on real-time basis and in real-time month. The next right answer is being given by Vaishali Bindal. Rest all the answer is not correct. It means rest all the answer is not correct. Darshan, my point is, I do agree that it will not be updated. It will not be available in the October. But if the R1 is being furnished in the December 22, whatever the date, then ये ट्रांजेक्शन किसी न किसी 2B में तो आएगा ही आएगा ना. ऐसा तो है ही नहीं कि फर्निश कर दिया तो आएगा नहीं 2B में. It will come in 2B. My question is in which 2B? नहीं. अंशिका, all the participants जिन्होंने भी आंसर दिया, विश्वनाथ रेड्डी, kindly, oh great, you are also right. Suman Banerjee, you are also right, only year is different. You are writing some different year, probably the year would be different, but your answer is right. Vaishali Bindal, right. Vishwanath Reddy, right. Absolutely. Ritik Prajapati, you have given the reasoning as well. नहीं. देखो, चलो डिस्कस करते हैं. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ, 3 या 4 पार्टिसिपेंट को क्लियर है. So we were talking about the GSTR 2B. Suppose GSTR 2B ठीक है. Let me open one Excel sheet. It would be better to write. Now, GSTR 2B for June, sorry, for October 2022. If the GSTR 1 of the preceding, not preceding month, what is the due date of the preceding month GSTR 2B, GSTR 1? So it will be 11th October. So after 11th October, then till 11th November, any GSTR 1 is being furnished between this period. Any GSTR 1 is being furnished between this period after 11th October to 11th November 22. Then your transaction would appear in the GSTR 2B of October. This point we have already discussed. Now, let me talk about GSTR 2B of November. I can say GSTR November month ka 2B jo hoga. So, if the GSTR 1 furnished by the due date of November GSTR 1, so it will be 11th December. What is the due date of the preceding GSTR 1? 11th November. So, I can say after 11th November. थोड़ा सा टफ होने वाला है. सिंपल बात है, हम किस GSTR 2B की बात करें. We are talking about the November month. So, if the November month return is being furnished by the due date, what is the due date? 11th December. And after the due date of the previous GSTR 1, after 11th November, whatever the GSTR 1 is being furnished by this date, then GSTR 1 is being furnished by this date. It will appear. So if it is after 11th December until 11th Jan, it will be appear in the GSTR 2B of December. So sorry, मैंने सही नाम नहीं लिया probably. Let me go back to my question. My question was, My question was, if the GSTR1 is furnished on 15 December, it means what is the due date of the November? What is the due date of the November? जो मैंने नाम लिए वो शायद correct नहीं लिए. So the right answer is December month GSTR 2B. क्लियर है? कितने लोगों को क्लियर है? कितने लोगों को क्लियर है? Let me ask one more question and by which we will have more clarity. Now try to give the answer if the December GSTR1 is being furnished on 11th Feb 2023. Please tell me this transaction will reflect in GSTR2B of which month? This transaction would reflect in which month GSTR2B? Eleventh Feb 23, if the same is being furnished, then it will reflect in which month GSTR2B? Feb 2023 is the due date for which month GSTR1? It is the due date for the GSTR1 of January. It is the due date for January month GSTR1, monthly taxpayer I'm talking about. If this is the case, then I can say this transaction will appear in the Jan GSTR2B. Let me go back to my Excel sheet once again. So if the detail is being furnished on or after 12th Jan till 11th Feb, then it will appear in the GSTR2B of Jan 23. Is that clear? Last point confirm kar dijiye so that we can move to the further discussion. Is it clear? Everyone are requested because still the multiple answer coming. Someone is giving the reply as Jan, some Feb, some March, some December. Yes. Then next month means not always fixed. In which month it is being furnished? So if it is being furnished in the 11th Feb, then what is the 11th due date? The due date is for January. So it will update it in January GSTR2B. Suman, clear hai? Mr. Suman Banerjee, is it clear? Now let me talk about the quarterly. Let me talk about the QRMP. So what you will say in the QRMP? After the due date of furnishing the GSTR1 preceding month. So now in case of the QRMP, we will divide the discussion in M1, M2 and M3. So for the first month of the quarter, so let's say we are talking about April. So let's say we are talking about April 22. after the due date of furnishing the GSTR1 for preceding the quarter and due date of the current month IFF, because M1 it will be IFF, M2 it would be IFF, M3 it would be GSTR. But concept वही है, after the due date of the preceding month or quarter, जो भी आप लगा लेना, so between 14th to 13th, between 14th of last month to 13th of current month, month को आप जैसे भी समझें, let's say we are talking about the April GSTR 2B. In case of the QRMP taxpayer, if my supplier is under QRMP, go back to the Excel sheet. Now we are talking about QRMP. So my point is the GSTR 2B of April 2022, which details will come in the April 22 GSTR 2B if my supplier is under QRMP. Suppose if my supplier is under QRMP, I can say the due date of last month or quarter, that would be quarter. Obviously, April है तो पीछे वाला quarter खत्म हुआ है. So what is the due date? 13th April. So I can say after 13th April to what is the due date of April 22 IFF. 13th May, right? I can say the GSTR 2B of April would consist of those QRMP taxpayer who has furnished the IFF or GSTR 1 after 13th but till 13th May. After 13th of the preceding April until 13th May. Is it clear? See, again repeating, in case of the QRMP taxpayer, there would be M1 and M2, it would be IFF, and for quarter ending, it would be GSTR1. So after the due date of the preceding quarter, GSTR1, that is 13, because in the case of the QRMP, one thing is clear, whether it is IFF or GSTR1, the due date would always be 13. So I can say 14th of the preceding month till the 13th of the current month. Is it clear? GSTR 2B of May. So I can say May का due date क्या होगा? What is the due date of May? 13th June. And after I hope it is clear now. Please confirm so that I can move ahead. So, Bhumika, GSTR1 of October reflected in GSTR2B of 11th. GSTR1 of October will reflect in GSTR2B. Will reflect in GSTR2B of 11th November to 11th December. 11th of same month क्या है? See, 11th is the due date. So, if you are using the word, if the GSTR1 filed on the due date, stop. Then it will appear in the same month GSTR2B. You are using the word 11th of the same month. 11th is not the due date. See, 11th is the due date for the GSTR1. But the GSTR2B would be able to generate on 14. That is okay. But it is not a particular 11. We can't use the 11 with GSTR2B. आपका सेंटेंस तो बिल्कुल ठीक है भूमिका, बट आप जो बार बार 11th को यूज कर रहे हो ना GSTR2B के साथ, वो ठीक नहीं है. रेस्ट आर ओके. ठीक है ना, फाइन. So for the second month of the quarter for M2, I can say after the due date of furnishing the detail using the IFF for first month of the quarter, then due date of furnishing the details using the IFF for the second month of the quarter. Again, we are talking about between 14 to 13. For third month of the quarter, because we will furnish the GSTR1. In case of the QRMP, they will furnish the GSTR1. So they've used the word GSTR1, and second month they've used the word IFF. Clear? And rest all the details, like the details of the IGST paid on import of goods from the SEZ unit or developer or from outside India, purchase from outside India, it will available. It will be GSTR2B is available to the recipient on a particular date, which you can generate only after 13. That is on 14. It would be able to download and it would remain same. So by this, we have completed the discussion on the GSTR2A and the GSTR2B. So I'm using I can say the one word or one chart, something like that. Let's say we are talking about the September month. The GSTR2A of September would consist the GSTR1 of September, which is being furnished on any date. See, point to be noted. In the GSTR2A, I'm using the word any with filing date. And in the GSTR2B, I'm using the word any with the GSTR1. ध्यान रखिए सर, क्या मैं कह रहा हूं? I'm saying that if you talk about GSTR2A of a particular month, then it will consist the purchase of that month. The GSTR1 of that month, whenever it is being furnished, it is not relevant. What is the relevant? It will have the details of those GSTR1 for which you are talking about, for which month you are talking about. But when we talk about the GSTR2B, then filing date become important. Which GSTR1? It is immaterial. So if we are talking about GSTR2B of September, then all GSTR1 which is being furnished between this date will be appearing in the GSTR2B. It can be any GSTR1, let's say April, May, June, July, doesn't matter. So please note, the any word is being used in GSTR2A with respect to filing date, and any word is being used for GSTR2B with respect to any GSTR1. I hope it will give the more clarity, conceptual clarity between 2A and 2B. बहुत discussion हो गया 2A 2B में. Let's move further. So this is the theory you can refer. I will upload. Just one quick question. What is the GSTR 3B due date in case of QRMP taxpayer? 3B का due date क्या है QRMP taxpayer में? What is the GSTR 3B due date in case of the QRMP taxpayer? GSTR 3B due date for QRMP taxpayer. And tomorrow we will have the class on the invoice, credit note, debit note, and one more class would be left that we will keep on Sunday. So now there will be 2 more class. After this class, there will be 2 more class by me. One class would be held on tomorrow, 18th. So we will cover the invoice, credit, debit note, tax invoice, and one more class, which we will probably have on Sunday on e-way bill. So by this, I done my part. Oh, Sudhanshu, Ritik, Ishan. Ritik has given the right answer. Now Ritik has given the right answer. Nahi. Vaishali Bindal. No. What is the due date of the GSTR 3B? If I'm using the word GSTR 3B, it means it will be only after the end of the quarter. So the due date of GSTR 3B by QRMP taxpayer is either 22 or 24. It depends upon the state. So what we have discussed that the due date of the GSTR 3B has been staggered. If you are in the category state number 1, then due date would be 22. The name of the state are छत्तीसगढ़, मध्य प्रदेश, गुजरात, महाराष्ट्र, कर्नाटका, गोवा, केरला, तमिलनाडु, तेलंगाना, आंध्र प्रदेश, यूटी ऑफ दमन एंड दीव दादरा नगर, पुडुचेरी, अंडमान निकोबार, आइसलैंड और लक्षद्वीप. And for 24, what is the due date? GSTR 3B QRMP. There are the two due date, 22 or 24 after the end of the quarter. Okay. So for 24, these are the state. So that we have discussed yesterday, but in the last class. But today I have explained the name of the state of category state number 1, for which 22 is the date, and category state number 2 ka state for which the due date of the GSTR 3B is 24th after the end of the quarter. Now let's move to the GSTR 4. Let's move to the GSTR 4. What is the GSTR 4? Again, this part we have discussed, some part we have discussed. Let me talk about the QRM, which taxpayer filed the GSTR 4? Which category of the taxpayer filed the GSTR 4? अच्छा, सुमन गोयल को अभी भी कंफ्यूजन है. लेट मी गो बैक टू दैट एक्सेल शीट. सुमन गोयल को कंफ्यूजन है, लेट मी क्लियर दैट कंफ्यूजन. सो देखो, अगर 11th दिसंबर तक फाइल होता, सो 11th दिसंबर इज द ड्यू डेट ऑफ विच मंथ? सुमन गोयल, माय पॉइंट इज टू यू ओनली, प्लीज कंफर्म दैट 11th दिसंबर कौन से मंथ का ड्यू डेट है? 11th दिसंबर कौन से मंथ का ड्यू डेट है? सुमन गोयल, प्लीज टेल मी द 11th दिसंबर कौन से मंथ का ड्यू डेट है GSTR 1 मंथली टैक्स पेयर के केस में? What, which GSTR 1 is having the due date 11th December? Probably then I would give the more clarity about your question. Suman Goyal, 11th दिसंबर कौन से मंथ का GSTR 1 का ड्यू डेट है? वेटिंग फॉर योर रिप्लाई. मीनवाइल आप लोगों ने आंसर दिया है कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर, कंपोजिशन डीलर, कंपोजिशन लेवी. ठीक है, यू ऑल आर करेक्ट. रिगार्डिंग द GSTR 4 is furnished by the composition taxpayer. Now, please tell me what is the due date of the GSTR 4? So, अभी तक जवाब नहीं आया ना, तो ठीक है, एक बार रिप्लाई आ जाए सुमन गोयल का. सो सुमन, आई विल गिव द रिप्लाई अकॉर्डिंगली टू योर क्वेश्चन, टू योर डाउट. Let me go back to the main question. The GSTR 4 is the return applicable for the composition taxpayer. Now, my second question, what is the due date for GSTR 4? What is the due date of filing the return GSTR 4? Yeah. What is the due date for GSTR 4? The answer is almost all have given the right answer, but still there are 2-3 participants who was not correct. Let me tell you. Okay, एक बात और बताना, GSTR 4 monthly है, quarterly है या yearly है? Tell me, is it monthly or quarterly or yearly? Is it monthly or quarterly or yearly? I am talking about GSTR 4. अभी मैं सिर्फ GSTR 4 की बात कर रहा हूं. I am talking about only composition dealer, nothing else. It is yearly. It is annual. It is yearly. So it means the GSTR 4 is not periodical return. It will be filed after the end of the year by 30th April. Only 1 month has been given. Only 1 month has been given. I'll appreciate that. Can you please tell me what is the due date for, what is the form which will be used by the composition taxpayer to file the, to pay the taxes? सुशील, GSTR 2B रेगुलर टैक्स पेयर के लिए मंथली, समझा नहीं क्वेश्चन सुशील? हाँ मंथली है, GSTR 2B वुड ऑलवेज मंथली. माई पॉइंट, माई क्वेश्चन इज कौन सा फॉर्म यूज करेंगे कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर टू पे द टैक्सेस? ऑल्सो टेल मी द ड्यू डेट ऑफ दैट फॉर्म. ऑल्सो टेल मी द ड्यू डेट ऑफ दैट फॉर्म. कौन सा फॉर्म यूज करेंगे टू पे द टैक्सेस? फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन. एंड व्हाट इज द ड्यू डेट ऑफ दैट पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्सेस बाय द कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर along with frequency, मतलब monthly है, quarterly है, yearly है. You have to tell me the frequency. Form number, everyone has given the right answer. Everyone has given the right answer regarding the form number. My next point is due date of that particular payment of taxes. Frequency क्या वो भी साथ में बताना. Ritik, right answer for due date as well. Yes. Right. Manisha, we have already closed question number 1. That GSTR 4 is being furnished by the composition taxpayer and the due date is 30th April after the end of the year. So it is not November. So the date you are talking about is basically the date for taking the ITC, the date for rectifying the mistake. अब नहीं है वो, ये date GSTR 4 का नहीं है. So the GSTR 4 is the yearly furnished by the composition taxpayer and by 13th of the April after the end of the financial year. And the taxes will be paid through CMP 08. And what is the due date? It is quarterly after the end of the quarter by 18th of next month. Any question, kindly ask. Any question on this due date? We have discussed this due date. Clear? Regarding the applicability of the forms statement, is it clear? The due date 18th of the month after the end of the quarter. CMP 08 is basically used for making the payment of taxes by the composition dealer. If it is nil also, you need to furnish the CMP 08. Due date 18th after the end of the quarter. So let me ask the question. Suppose financial year 22-23, financial year 22-23, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, financial year 22-23, please tell me the due date of the CMP 08. Financial year 22-23 के लिए 4 CMP 08 आएंगे. Kindly tell me the due date. Is it okay, Bhumika? You will have the clarity. मेरा क्वेश्चन क्या है? Can we file multiple times GSTR 1? No. Between 12. So multiple period GSTR 1 you can furnish. One GSTR 1 can be furnished only one time. But yes, in this period, if any pending GSTR 1 are there, you can furnish all GSTR 1. And there is no control regarding the, or there is no cap fix that you cannot furnish for more than one. Multiple GSTR 1 of multiple period. प्रदीप गुप्ता, आपको आंसर दे रहा हूं मैं। Facilitation center will talk about. Darshan, I will talk about the query. Give me 2-3 minutes. Let me close this point. I have asked the question regarding the financial year 22-23. Please tell me the due date of the CMP 08 of all the period. GSTR 4 का बात नहीं कर रहा हूं. I am talking about CMP 08. भूमिका, आप मुझे बताएंगे कि कौन कौन सा ड्यू डेट होगा फॉर फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22-23 रिगार्डिंग CMP 08. चौथा क्वार्टर कहां गया भूमिका? फोर्थ क्वार्टर. 18th July, 18th October, 18th Jan, and 18th April. These are the 4. Now tell me the due date for financial year 22-23. What is the due date of GSTR 4 for financial year 22-23? What is the due date for the GSTR 4 for the financial year 22-23? Absolutely correct. Now I hope you have the more clarity regarding the due date. So now we are moving the content of GSTR 4. What is the content of the GSTR 4? Before that, let me give the reply to Darshan. Darshan ने question पूछा है. So you will find that the facilitation center, correct? What is the meaning of the facilitation center? So suppose I do not have the access to internet, or suppose I am not having any knowledge about the filing of the GSTR 4. So there is a multiple Suvidha center, Suvidha Kendra, Suvidha service provider made by the government. So I can approach them to file my GST return. Suvidha service provider. Okay. So this would be the, in fourth quarter, both GSTR 4 and CMP 08. Yes, because that CMP 08 is only for the quarter, but GSTR 4 would consist of entire year. Both point is clear, Darshan? नहीं, सुशील, GSTR 4 का practical example देना possible नहीं है, because point number 1, it is not in your syllabus. Point number 2, I will not be able to complete the other part which is in your syllabus. GSTR 4 practically मैं नहीं दिखा सकता, क्योंकि बहुत सारा, मतलब कि एक तो टाइम लगेगा और रिलेवेंट भी नहीं आपके एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. ठीक है. So let me talk about the content of the GSTR 4. In brief, it's talk about the GST number, legal name, trade name, TDS or TCS credit received, tax or interest or late fees payable and paid, a refund claim from the electronic cash ledger. Regarding the outward supply, invoice wise detail of all inward supply. All inward supply. ठीक है. Including RCM and import of service, that is table 4. What is that table 5? Summary of the self-assessed liability as per CMP 08. So whatever the CMP 08 you furnished, the summary will be appear in the respective table. And tax rate wise detail of the outward supply, inward supply, attracting reverse charge, net of advance, credit debit note, and any other adjustment. Consolidated details of outward supply. So now let me move to the study material to discuss the balance part. So Consolidated details of the outward supply. Can composition taxpayer charge the GST on the document they are issuing to customer? My question, can composition taxpayer charge the GST on the document issued by for the supply made by them to any party? Let's say I'm a composite taxpayer and you have purchased 1 lakh rupees ka goods from me. Can I charge the GST on 1 lakh? Just one question. Answer is composition taxpayer cannot charge or cannot collect the taxes from the recipient. So it will be the total value. It will be the total value. They cannot collect the tax and therefore they are not allowed to issue the tax invoice. They will always issue bill of supply. They will always issue bill of supply. They cannot issue the tax invoice because the GST would be charged only on the tax invoice, not on the bill of supply. Bill of supply would be issued by composition taxpayer or regular taxpayer if they are making the exempt supply. So bill of supply के ऊपर कभी tax नहीं हो सकता. Next point, can they take the ITC? Next question, suppose I am composite dealer, I have purchased from you and you are registered as a regular taxpayer. You are regular taxpayer. Will you charge the GST to me? When you will make the supply to me, you are raising the tax invoice to me. Will you collect the taxes from me or not? Will you collect the taxes from me or not? Can I take the ITC of that taxes or not? The answer would be, I cannot take the ITC, but because the purchase is being made from the registered supplier, so definitely he will charge the GST. Suman Goyal, now it is coming. Suman Goyal, it's so late. Your answer is coming, but it is too late. So probably I have asked approximate 10-15 minutes back. Now your reply is coming. Okay. Supplier will charge the GST because he is a regular taxpayer. He will issue the tax invoice to me. He will charge proper taxes, but the taxes I cannot take the ITC. So consolidated details of the outward supplies. Okay. So table 6, not invoice wise. However, the details of intrastate and interstate inward supply received from registered and unregistered are to be provided invoice wise. इनका डिटेल मुझे इनवॉइस वाइज देना है, बट आउट का कंपोजिशन कंसोलिडेटेड डिटेल देना है बाय कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर. Tax liability are not eligible to take the ITC. They discharge their tax liability only by debiting the cash ledger. So that point we also have discussed. Now let me move to the study material. GSTR 4 we have discussed, CMP 08 ka due date we have discussed, and nil CMP 08 we have also discussed that if you do not have any liability, still you need to file the nil CMP 08. Now the 1 point is statements are written for the period prior to opting the composition scheme. If the registered person opt to pay the tax under composition, okay, from the beginning of the financial year, 1 point to be noted, that if I like to switch from the regular to the composition, I cannot switch in between of any period. Suppose today is July. Can I go tomorrow under composition? Suppose I'm registered under regular category. Can I go tomorrow? No. They have fixed the date that you need to furnish the requisite form by the due date. And what is the due date? Before the start of the financial year. It means suppose I like to go for composition for 23-24. Can you tell me what is the due date to file the respective form? 31st March 2023. This is the last date you have to communicate. This is the last date you have to communicate for furnishing the form by which you will convert from regular to the composition. Okay. Now, then if you are under regular scheme, so you will file the return by the due date of furnishing the return for the month of the September or annual return, whichever is earlier. Now September is become November. At every places we know. Now GSTR for the period prior to exiting from composition scheme. Now we have talked about into the composition. Now we are talking about withdrawal from composition. We are talking about withdrawal, opt out. So these are the two technical terms, opt in and opt out. If you like to opt out from the composition, you can do at any point of time. There is no restrictions. इनके लिए restriction है before start of the financial year. In matlab from regular to the composition there is a last date. That before start of the financial year 31st March is the last date for opting the composition from regular. But from composition to regular, opting out, there is no last date. You can opt at any point of time. Then CMP 08 and GSTR relating to the period prior to opt out from composition, 18th of the month succeeding the quarter in which the date of the withdrawal fall, and 30th of April, the due date would remain same. You have to furnish the respective GSTR 4 and CMP 8. One question to all of you. What is the एक मिनट दीजिए. In the registration chapter, we have discussed cancellation of registration by the proper officer if the return is not being furnished. So can you tell me how many return or what is the provision when proper officer can cancel the registration of composition taxpayer and regular taxpayer? What I'm doing, I am linking the रिटर्न चैप्टर विद रजिस्ट्रेशन चैप्टर. आप मुझे बताइए कि कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर का रजिस्ट्रेशन कब कैंसिल कर सकता ऑफिसर बिकॉज ऑफ द नॉन फाइलिंग ऑफ द रिटर्न, कब कैंसिल कर सकता. सो वी हैव डिस्कस्ड सम फ्रीक्वेंसी और सम रिटर्न्स. माय क्वेश्चन इज ओनली विद रिस्पेक्ट टू कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर. व्हेन द कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर का रजिस्ट्रेशन कैन बी कैंसिल्ड by the proper officer, we have discussed in registration chapter. Over to you. कंपोजिशन टैक्स पेयर के केस में आईटीसी ले नहीं सकता तो यूज कहां से होगा? When he cannot take the ITC वैशाली, so how he can use? So he will not be allowed to take the ITC at all. So the question of use of the ITC will never come. It will be lapse. It will be cost to him. सुमन गोयल, आपका आंसर आ रहा है मेरे पास में. एंड आई थिंक द क्वेश्चन विच यू रेज्ड रिगार्डिंग द जनवरी 23, आई होप इट इज क्लियर. नहीं क्लियर है तो मुझे वापस पूरा क्वेश्चन पूछ लीजिए. आई विल गिव द क्लैरिटी. आपके आंसर काफी लेट आ रहे हैं. नाउ द क्वेश्चन विच आई हैव आस्क्ड regarding the due date of the CMP 08, now your answer is coming. So I think there is a gap because of any network. Wow, Kavita, right. नहीं, मनीषा नहीं, भूमिका नॉट करेक्ट। My question is, when the composition registration can be cancelled by the proper officer due to non-filing of the return taxes, etc. The answer is, if the GSTR 4 is not furnished within 3 months from the due date, that is 30th April. If the GSTR 4 of any financial year is not furnished by the composition taxpayer within 3 months from the due date, then they have the power to cancel the GST registration. It is not 3 year. It is amendment. This amendment, Bhumika, we have discussed this amendment in the registration chapter. So year was also not there. There were 3 consecutive quarter probably. Okay. And in case of the regular taxpayer, if in the case of the regular taxpayer, you can see if the taxable person registered in the regular category not furnish the returns of 6 months. Now the GSTR 4, they are saying for 3 months. So the date has been changed, which we have discussed in the registration chapter. Okay. Now let's move further. ये बात हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, एक बार कर लेते हैं. रेगुलर टैक्सपेयर ऑप्टिंग फॉर कंपोजिशन, एग्जिटिंग फ्रॉम कंपोजिशन. ठीक है. So if he is opting for composition, then he has to furnish the returns of GSTR, which we have discussed, GSTR 1, 3B, whatever applicable to the regular by the due date of November, and annual return, whichever is earlier. Okay. And in case of switch opting out from composition to regular, then he has to furnish the CMP 8 and GSTR 4 by the respective due date. So this is all about. Let's take a break of 10 minutes and we will resume at 7:30 and we'll start from GSTR 5. Okay. So ठीक sir. So we were talking about GSTR 5. The GSTR 5 is the return for non-resident taxable person, NRTP. In short, we are using the word NRTP. If you remember, we have discussed in the registration chapter that section 24 talk about that you need to take mandatory if you are NRTP. What is the concept? Further, we have discussed they have to pay the advance tax, and the registration would be valid initially for 90, then further they can extend 90 more days. So NRTP is more or less similar to the casual taxable person category. But in case of NRTP, non-resident taxable person, I will use the short word NRTP. They will file the GSTR 5. The GSTR 5 is a monthly return they have to furnish, and the last date is 20th after the end of the calendar month, and they have to pay the tax, interest, penalty, etc. if the amount has not been deposited within time. And point is, NRTP is not required to file annual return. So annual return we will discuss in some time, but they are not required to furnish annual return. Okay. So section 39, subsection 7, we have already discussed. Fixed sum method, self-assessment we have discussed, and also we had the certain example as well. Rectification that we have discussed. Now, let me move to the other returns. First return. So now we need to discuss from here. First return. What is the first return? When the person become liable for registration, suppose my turnover crossed the threshold limit on 17th July, then I have the time within 13 days. I have the time within 30 days, I can furnish the application for registration. Okay. From the date of become liable. Then my registration would be granted. So the point is, from 17th July onward, the transaction which I have made on which I need to pay the taxes where I will disclose, because suppose my registration application has been made in the month of August and the registration has been granted in the month of September. So if I log into my portal, GST portal, it will only shows the GST return on or after the date of the granting the certificate. So in the drop down, I can see the September onward returns. Then the question is where I have to disclose the outward supplies on which I have to pay the taxes. The concept is first return. When the person become liable to registration after his turnover cross, he may opt registration within 13 days. During the intervening period, might have made the outward supply, because 17 July is the date on which I am liable to pay the taxes. Even though my registration has been granted on September, let's say 7th September, if I have made any outward supply between 17 July to 7th September, I have to pay the taxes. Now, in order to enable such a registered person to declare the taxable supplies made by him for between these period, the date of the grant of the certificate and the date of the liability, then the registered person may issue the revised tax invoice. That concept of revised tax invoice we will discuss in the next chapter tomorrow probably. And he will report in the first GST return. First return. What is the first return? The returns of the month of the September. Like for the section 40, there is no separate return. It is exactly the first return which you file, GSTR1 and the GSTR3B. You will add the outward supply in GSTR1 and pay the taxes through GSTR3B. Okay. Now, what is the annual return? So the concept of annual return, the first is GSTR 9 for regular taxpayer, 9A for composition taxpayer, and 9B, which is not yet notified, but for ECO, e-commerce operator. GSTR 9 for regular taxpayer, GSTR 9A for composition taxpayer and GSTR 9B for e-commerce operator. Since the beginning, the day when the GST was introduced, since 1718 till financial year 22-23, the annual return is made optional for those taxpayer having the aggregate turnover up to 2 CR. So we all know that composition taxpayer, what is the maximum turnover of composition taxpayer? कितनी turnover हो सकती है composition taxpayer के लिए maximum? What is the maximum turnover for composition taxpayer? What is the maximum turnover for composition taxpayer? It's 17 July. So I'm talking about today. My turnover crossed the threshold limit. So I am liable to take registration. So the composition taxpayer for normal state, it is 1.5 crore upper limit. And for regular, for special category, it is 75 lakhs. So in case of the composition taxpayer, your upper limit can be either 75 if you are in the special category state, or upper limit in the other state are 1.5 crore. There is one more special category. There is one more special composition in which the limit is 50 lakhs. So max to max, it can be 1.5 CR. And the annual return is optional for those taxpayer having annual aggregate turnover up to 2 CR. In other word, I can say that composition taxpayer since beginning till GSTR 9 is not mandatory, it's optional. Now we are talking about the regular taxpayer. It is possible that if he has the turnover below 2 CR up to 2 CR, again the GSTR 9 is optional. And when it is exceed aggregate turnover more than 2 crore, yes, he has to furnish GSTR 9. 9B for e-commerce operator, which is not yet made effective. Effective abhi tak hua nahi hai, but 9B is the applicable for e-commerce operator. Now these are not required to file annual return. Casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person, ISD, TDS and TCS category, OIDAR. What is the due date? 31st December of the next financial year. A format has been prescribed for GSTR 9 and GSTR 9A. Final return. What is the final return? The final return, section 45, is the GSTR 10. Who is required to furnish the final return? Who is required to furnish the return under section and whose registration has been cancelled? Is required to final return. So regular taxpayer who is filing GSTR 1 and 3B, regular category of the taxpayer, when he surrender his GST number and registration is cancelled, then he has to furnish the final return within 3 months. And 3 month ka counting would be whichever is early, whichever is later, either date of cancellation or cancellation order. So the date on which the cancellation is being sought and the cancellation ka order issued by the proper officer, whichever is later, and from that date, within 3 months, the GSTR 10 has to be furnished. Kindly answer my question whether UIN is a registered person. Kindly answer my question whether UIN is a registered person. Kindly answer my question whether UIN. What is the UIN? UIN is basically taken by the foreign embassies, foreign consulate, etc. United Nations organization. And the main purpose is refund. Main purpose is refund. Whether UIN is a registered person. If you read the definition of the registered person, it says that it does not include UIN. It means UIN is not a registered person. What is the main purpose of taking the registration? The main purpose to obtain the refund, for which they need to furnish the GSTR 11. Inward supply, claiming the refund of the taxes paid on the inward supply. Okay. Now, section 46 and section 47 and section 48. These are the three sections. What is the section 46? 46 is the notice to the return defaulter. What is that? Suppose if any person has not furnished the return, then the section 46 says that to issue the notice for the return defaulter. What is the form? GSTR 3A is the form number. GSTR 3A is the form number. Suppose my due date to furnish the GSTR 3B is 20 or 22 or 24. Once it is being crossed, then officer should issue the notice in the form GSTR 3A by stating that you have not furnished the return within time. GSTR 3A section 46 is applicable for section 39, section 44 and section 52 and section 45. So it means 39, 44, 45 or 52. The notice required to furnish within 15 days. So when they will issue the notice, they will state that after this notice, if you furnish the return within 15 days, then it will be, there is no requirement to reply this notice. It will be deemed to be withdrawn. Now the section 47 is talking about the late fees. Now regarding the late fees, I am dividing the discussion in two parts. The first part is the late fees per day. And the second part is the upper cap of the late fees. The two part. What is the late fees for the continuous period? Second, what is the late fees and or what is the upper cap of the late fees? The late fees is leviable for section 37, section 39, section 45. Initially, the late fees was 100 rupees per day CGST, 100 rupees per day SGST. So I can say the total 200 rupees per day subject to the maximum of 5,000 CGST and 5,000 SGST. So the total late fees would be 10,000. This was the initial late fees. Okay. Let me talk about what is the late fees which has been reduced, or what is the upper cap of the late fees. Let me talk about. सबसे पहले मैं सेक्शन 47 रीड कर लेता हूं, बाकी सारे स्टैट्यूटरी अपडेट हम लोग 1 बाय 1 रीड करेंगे अभी ये कंप्लीट होने के बाद. Then the late fees has been reduced. First, I'm talking about per day late fees. One second. If it is a nil return, so maximum late fees under section 47 for the delayed 1 minute. Okay, sir, give me only 1 minute. It is for annual return. It is for rule 88C. I think it is being given. Let me tell you, the late fees per day is rupees 50 per day if it is a having the tax liability. And if it is a nil return, then 20 rupees per day. What is the breakup of 20? 10 CGST, 10 SGST. What is the breakup of 50? 25 CGST, 25 SGST. This is the late fees per day. Now, also read the late fees for GSTR 4. No, GSTR 9, annual return. Initially, for section 44, what is the late fees? 100 rupees per day CGST, 100 rupees per day SGST. I am talking about if the GSTR 9 is not furnished within the due date. then 200 rupees per day and subject to the maximum. See, if you read the maximum late fees, it was so high. What is the maximum late fees? 0.50% of the turnover. Sir, यहाँ तो 0.25 लिखा हुआ है. Regarding the late fees, let me tell you one more fact. Whenever you read the provision of the late fees, whenever you read the provision of the penalty, we will read the provision of the CGST Act. We are reading the provision of the CGST Act. Equivalent amount of SGST would be added. It means if there is a late fees or penalty, or let's say 100 rupees per day, it means this is of only as CGST. I have to add for SGST. So the total late fees would become 200 rupees per day. Similarly, what is the upper cap? 0.25% of the turnover of CGST, 0.25% turnover of SGST. So tell me, if my turnover is 10 crore, if my turnover is 10 crore, please calculate and tell me the upper limit of GSTR 9 ka late fees under CGST. If my turnover is 10 crore, if my turnover is 10 crore, then what is the late fees? Under CGST upper cap. I'm talking about upper cap. CGST का कितना होगा? कितना लेट फीस मुझे पे करना पड़ेगा CGST का? मैक्सिमम कितना पे करना पड़ेगा फॉर GSTR 9? This is my question to all of you. अपर कैप कितना होगा? व्हाट इज द अपर कैप? राइट, 10 करोड़ का टर्नओवर है, इसका 0.25% कितना होगा? It would be 2,50,000 CGST, and similar amount of the SGST would be there. So I can say the total late fees for non-furnishing of the GSTR 9 by the due date, upper cap, I'm talking about upper cap only, obviously, the maximum late fees would be, oh my God, what would be the late fees? 5 lakh rupees. So the day when the means if the turnover exceed, accordingly the late fees is going to be exceed. ये तो बहुत ज्यादा हो गया ना. Considering that the late fees has been rationalized, the late fees has been rationalized. What is the rationalization of the late fees for the GSTR 9? First we will talk about, and then we will talk about the rationalization of the GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, etc. So the late fees for the GSTR 9 has been rationalized as under. From which financial year? 22-23 onwards. Means for the past year, it is same, which we have discussed. But from 22-23 onwards, what is the late fees for the GSTR 9? if your aggregate turnover is up to 5 crore, 50 rupees per day, subject to the maximum of 0.04% of the turnover, 0.02 CGST, 0.02 SGST. Please tell me if my turnover is 4 crore. You tell me if my aggregate turnover is 4 crore, what is the late fees? Maximum late fees which I have to pay. अगर मेरी टर्नओवर 4 करोड़ है and I am furnishing the not furnishing the GSTR 9 within the due date. So tell me what could be the maximum late fees from financial year 22-23 onwards. अगर मेरी टर्नओवर 4 करोड़ है, for maximum late fees, the 0.04% total. So 4 into 4, 16,000. So maximum late fees would be 16,000 if I'm not wrong. Now see, if your aggregate turnover exceed 5 crore, but it is up to 20 crore, then what is the maximum late fees? Same. So if my turnover is, let's say, 10 crore, earlier I need to pay rupees 5 lakh. But अब कितना पे करना पड़ेगा? 0.04%. It means it will be 40,000 only. It will be only 40,000. See the difference. Now the point is, if your turnover exceed, and sorry, per day ka late fees is 100 rupees, 50 CGST, 50 SGST. Now the third point, if your aggregate turnover is 20 crore, then same, which was earlier 200 and subject to the maximum of 0.50% of the turnover. So the main point which I like to highlight, that suppose I have the registration in Rajasthan, let's say turnover is 1 crore. I have the registration in Haryana, let's say turnover is 1 crore. I have the registration in Karnataka, let's say turnover is 1 crore. Individual turnover in the state or UT, the question number 1, GSTR 9 is optional or mandatory? In this case, GSTR 9 is optional or mandatory? Give me the answer. In this case, GSTR 9 is optional or mandatory. Why I'm using the word optional? Because we know up to 2 crore, you not required to file the GSTR 9. Also tell me one more question and then I will answer both the question together. The GSTR 9 would be for each GST number separately, or I have to file one consolidated GSTR 9 for all the GST number under one PAN. So if in this case, I have the 3 GST number under one PAN, so do I need to file GSTR 9 3, or I can file only one as a consolidated? These are the two questions. मेरे 3 GST नंबर है अंडर वन पैन, इंडिविजुअल टर्नओवर 1 करोड़ है. मेरा पहला क्वेश्चन, will the GSTR 9 be optional or mandatory, or will the GSTR 9 be single or consolidated, or 3 GSTR 9 individually? These are the two. let me answer first. Because we were talking about GSTR 9 is to be furnished, section 44, if aggregate turnover exceed 2 crore. What is the meaning of aggregate turnover? You remember what is the meaning of aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover to be counted on pan India. रजिस्ट्रेशन के चैप्टर में हमने डिस्कस किया था एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर का मतलब क्या है. वो पैन इंडिया का टर्नओवर है. अगर मेरे 3 जीएसटी नंबर है, तीनों को क्लब कर दीजिए. इन दैट केस, इन माय एग्जांपल, राजस्थान aggregate turnover is 3 crore. Haryana aggregate turnover is 3 crore. Karnataka aggregate turnover is 3 crore. So in this example, because my aggregate turnover, which is all India turnover, exceeding 2 crore, I have to file the GSTR 9, and point to be noted, GSTR 9 would be separately for each GST number. It means in this example, I have to furnish mandatorily 3 GSTR 9. Is it clear? I hope. Now we were talking about a new rule 88C. And similarly, let me talk about one more thing. Like GSTR 9, they have also rationalized the late fees of GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, etc. What is the rationalization? In case of the GSTR 3B and 1, I'm talking about upper limit. Upper limit. Lower limit, we have already discussed. Initially, 100 rupees per day CGST, 100 rupees per day SGST. And after that, it has been reduced to 50 if it is tax liability and 20 if it is no tax liability. 20 means total, 10 plus 10. 50 means total, 25 plus 25. And the upper cap was same, 10,000, which has been rationalized from 1 June 2021. What is the rationalization? That if you have the nil tax liability, the upper cap of the late fees would be 250 CGST, 250 SGST. Now, if you have the not nil tax liability, you have the some tax liability, then aggregate turnover up to 1.5 CR, upper cap is 2,000. 1.5 to 5, upper cap is 5,000. Above 5, upper cap is same, 10,000. Regarding the GSTR 4, they have also rationalized the late fees. Nil return, 500. Tax liability, maximum 2,000. Maximum 2,000. Okay. Now, what is the rule 88C? (88C) basically, it is again new provision in the GSTR 1. If in the GSTR 1, the tax liability outward supply you are reporting, and in the GSTR 3B, you are paying the taxes. If there is a difference between 1 and 3B, if there is a difference between 1 and 3B, for more than specified amount and specified percentage, then the registered person, suppose I have furnished my GSTR 1 by, let's say, X amount, and I'm paying the less taxes through GSTR 3B. Sir, is it possible? Yes, it is possible, because 3B can be manually edited. I can edit any figure which is auto-populated. I can edit. As of now, editing is allowed. So because editing is allowed, I will file my R1 with A amount and I will file my 3B with B amount. It is possible? Yes. So the taxes are not properly going to the government. Then they are saying they will issue the notice system generated to pay the taxes differential or explain the difference. So it is possible. Now, suppose I need to file GSTR 1 with 10 lakh, but typing mistake, I have put the 10 crore figure. Suppose मैंने 2 zero extra लगा दिया, 10 crore चला गया. In that case, I have to pay the actual taxes in 3B, but I can furnish the reason, I can give the reason, sir, that was a clerical mistake, which I will do the amendment in the subsequent GSTR 1. So they are saying if the difference between 1 and 3B is more than the specified percentage and a specified amount, then such taxpayer will be intimated through DRC01B. The form number is not important for you, but only for your understanding. So I will be intimated DRC01B. I have to pay the taxes or explain the difference within the 7 days. Rule 88C, you can read. So I've given the crux of the 88C. Okay, you can read in detail. So let me again tell you the important word which you have to write. Such amount, and please important, the word is and such percentage. Such amount and such percentage. It means the difference should be satisfying both the condition, amount wise as well as percentage wise. What is the amount? What is the percentage? They will notify, and gradually they can reduce or increase also. But the point is the amount and percentage. If it is more than, difference is more than that, then system will send the intimation in the DRC01B. I will have the two options. Either pay the taxes along with interest or explain the difference reason within the period of 7 days. So this is the main crux of Rule 88C, read with Rule 59.6 and the form DRC01B. You can ignore the form number. So मैंने आपको बता दिया practical understanding के लिए. ठीक है. So I think this is the, yes. Now let me further, there are multiple points. Statutory update में बहुत सारे point है. Now these changes, section 38, section 37, so the law has been changed. Law has certain provision has been omitted, like section 37, section amendment 38, 39 में कुछ amendment हुआ. Let me tell you about it. Just you are not required to remember these all such amendment. मतलब बहुत slight changes हुआ था, but we have discussed in detail. जहाँ पे वो important part था ना, वो हमने already discuss कर लिया. एक बार मैं थोड़ा ऊपर जा रहा हूँ, 2 मिनट दीजिए मुझे. हाँ, रिटर्न्स में क्या क्या है? स्टैच्यूटरी, रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन डीबार फ्रॉम फर्निशिंग द आउटपुट सप्लाई. हाँ, अब 59.6 ने क्या कहा? अभी जो हमने चेंजेस की बात की थी ना, द रूल 88C. इफ first debar is that I am not allowed to furnish GSTR1 or IFF if I have not furnished the GSTR3B for the preceding month. We have already discussed this point. In case of the QRMP, shall not be allowed to furnish the GSTR1 or IFF if he has not furnished the GSTR3B for the preceding tax period. Now, this new point, intimation in the DRC01B, we have already discussed. Just now we have discussed. Agar intimation issue ho gaya, which I have to give the reply or pay the taxes within 7 days. If I am not taking anything, if either I'm not explaining or I'm not paying the taxes within 7 days, then system will not allow me to furnish my next R1. Okay. GSTR 2B, we have discussed everything with respect to 2B. These rules has been omitted because they were having the reference of older system of returns. GST practitioner की बात करते हैं. अभी तक क्लियर है? कोई क्वेश्चन? Let me see. Sir, late fees date at which fine is charged? मैं समझा नहीं. वैशाली एक बार वापस बताना. दर्शन, GSTR 3B can be amended subsequently, sir? Yes. Amendment means you can see in the GSTR 1, the way of amendment, you can put the respective invoice number, entire invoice would be open, and you can amend any detail. But in 3B, the situation is not same. Because in the GSTR 3B, we are reporting total amount. We are not reporting invoice-wise information. So, if there is wrong amount on which you have paid the taxes or wrong amount of the ITC, you can modify in the subsequent one with the net impact. Example, let me tell you one example. Suppose in the GSTR 3B of May, I have to put 10 lakh rupees, but wrongly I have written 9 lakh rupees, let's say. May month GSTR 3B, I have to put 10 lakh rupees, whether it is a tax or whether it is a ITC, anything. But I have entered only 9 lakh. So when I file the June month GSTR 3B, differential amount of 1 lakh would be added. Either in liability, if it is pertinent to liability, or if it is ITC, I can add in ITC. Second point, suppose instead of 9 lakh, I have entered 11 lakh. So this 1 lakh you can reduce in the subsequent 3B. So net impact को आपको मतलब adjust इस तरीके से adjust करना in the 3B, because 3B is the consolidated return. It is not a like invoice wise information. This would be the way. These amendment is relevant for बहुत important examination के लिए. Sudhanshu, as per statutory update, you have to, because the books is not updated, so accordingly the statutory update has been made. तो आपको तो statutory update तक का आज तक का जो भी amendment applicable आपके एग्जाम में, जो भी टर्म में आप एग्जाम दे रहे हैं, वहां तक का amendment आपको लिखना है ना. Will the interest be charged? Isa, very good question. If I have paid the taxes shortly, then I have to pay the interest also. A very nice question. बस 5-10 मिनट में हम अपना डिस्कशन कंप्लीट कर लेंगे, एंड देन विल मूव टू द क्विक राउंड ऑफ द क्वेश्चन आंसर. द जीएसटी प्रैक्टिशनर, ठीक है. सो जीएसटी प्रैक्टिशनर अभी बात करते हैं. देन omission of the forms 1A, 2 and 3. Then there is a certain amendment in these section. So these section, wherever required, they have made the amendment. That is okay. Section 41 आप समझ लीजिए, it is important. Section 41, it has been substituted. Why they have been substituted? Because earlier they were talking about provisional ITC. They have omitted the entire section 41, or rather I should say they have substituted the entire section 41. And they are saying that whatever the ITC is eligible, you have to self-assist. That earlier there was a concept of provisional ITC which has been omitted. To provide for availment of self-assist ITC as per section 16. Section 47, again, there is no late fees on the GSTR because GSTR 2, form GSTR 2 has been omitted. So the correspondingly word on the inward, section 38, they have omitted. Section 48, GST practitioner, which we will discuss. This is the last topic of the class. Let's move to the GST practitioner. What is the GST practitioner? As per section 48, for the authorization of eligible person to act as approved GSTP, registered person may authorize an approved GSTP to furnish the information on behalf of the government. Certain areas of the work has been given to the GSTP which he can do. The manner of approval, eligibility, duties, etc. has been given as under. GSTN provides separate user ID and password to enable him to work on behalf of the client. without asking their user ID and password. So first important thing. So what is the difference? So when someone is registered for the GSTP category, then separate user ID and password will be given. And the client can assign the GSTP. So once they will assign the GSTP, then GSTP from his login ID password, he can furnish or he can file the GST returns, e-way bill, etc., which we will discuss later on. ठीक है, क्या क्या काम कर सकते हैं? What is the eligible criteria? So it should be Indian citizen, sound mind, not adjudicated as insolvent, not being convicted by a competent court. Plus qualification, satisfied any of the condition, retired officer of the commercial tax department of any state or CBIC. Why CBIC? Means there are the two officers. There are two categories of officer, either state officer or central officer. Central officer is being called as a CBIC. Not lower than Group B gazetted officer for at least 2 years, or enrolled as a cell tax practitioner or TRP under the earlier indirect tax regime for a period of not less than 5 years. So in the VAT, respective state, there was a concept of cell tax practitioner, and in the income tax also there was a concept of income tax practitioner. If one having the cell tax practitioner or tax return prepared TRP and has worked for more than 5 years, yes, they were allowed for GSTP also. What is the qualification? Graduate, postgraduate, or equivalent examination having the degree in the commercial law, banking, higher auditing, business administration, degree of foreign university recognized by Indian university, other examination notified by the government, has passed the CA, CS, or CWA. Okay. Then what are the activity he can undertake? He can furnish the details of outward supply. And now, if you see the statutory update, the word inward supply has been omitted. Why it has been omitted? Because the form GSTR 2 has been omitted from 1 October 22. So the GSTP cannot file the GSTR 2, right? So the correspondingly amendment has been made in the GST practitioner work also. I'll show you the same. Give me one. See, section 48, subsection 2. Okay. The word, the details of the inward supply in the section 38, it has been omitted. Clear? Now, like furnish the monthly return, annual return, final return, make the deposit of the credit into the cash ledger, furnish the e-way bill, furnish the details of the challan, file the application for amendment of endowment, file the intimation to pay the tax under composition scheme or withdrawal from the said scheme, file refund, file application of registration, amendment, cancellation. Also allowed to appear as an authorized representative before officer of the department, appellate authority, even appellate tribunal. See, practitioner can go till tribunal on behalf of the registered person. Confirmation from the registered person shall be shown regarding refund application and regarding filing an application for registration, amendment or cancellation. उसके लिए उसका confirmation चाहिएगा GST portal के through route है. Furnishing the return through GSTP, given the consent, that is okay. So this is all about. Let me see if what is the procedure for enrollment as the GSTP. The if you log into the GST portal, so government portal, let me show you that portal also, which option I have to select. So when you go to the GST portal and click on the registered now, GST practitioner registered now. So this is the PCT01. It is called as PCT01. You have to furnish that PCT01. I am the GST practitioner. Okay. This, sorry. Okay. This form is called as PCT01. Again, not required to remember the form number, and it is not in your syllabus also. Just only for the sake of understanding, I'm telling. PCT1 you will file. Then the department, you need to visit the department, so the degrees, etc., whatever the qualification we have discussed. Then they will approve. Once they will approve, then your PCT02, the certificate of GST practitioner, would be issued. For one category, which category? The person who is having the 5 years of experience and having the GST practitioner, not like a tax return preparer or sales tax practitioner. For them, there will be the exams conducted by the NASIM. Indirect tax की education मतलब central body है जो कि exam conduct करती है. So they will conduct the exam. Once you pass the exam, then you will become the GST practitioner. This is all about the process. Now let me see the question if you have, and otherwise we will move to the quick round of the question answer. Last 10 minutes. GSTP तो इंडिविजुअल होगा मेरे हिसाब से, ओनली इंडिविजुअल सर. Means you cannot form a company and the company become the GST practitioner. No. It would be individuals. In my my mind, it is only individuals. So we who has the following just the qualification or the officer or something like we have discussed. It should be only individuals. Any other question? Late fees calculation at which date? So the late fees calculation is the day when you are filed. See, एक point समझिएगा. According to the law, or anything, what is the calculation of late fees? What is the due date and when you are filing the GST return? Suppose my due date is 20th July for GSTR 3B, and I am furnishing on the 27th July. Then I have to pay the late fees of 7 days. Especially, I have to pay the late fees for 7 days. So on which date it will be calculated? The due date versus the date on which you are filing the return. Similarly, GSTR 9, GSTR 1, 3B, etc. Fine? Please confirm. अब एक बार हम क्विक क्वेश्चन आंसर देखते हैं थोड़े. So, shall we start the question answer? What is the form of final return? What is the form of final return? Government will also pay the interest 6%, and in case of the refund, in case of the, we will discuss, but it is in final. Section 54 will allow certain category of the certain category in the interest by the government as well. What is the form number for the final return? And what is the due date to file that return? GSTR 10. Answer is final return is the GSTR 10, and due date is, what is the time limit within which it has to be furnished? क्या time limit है जिसमें मैं furnish करना पड़ेगा? Final return. I'm not talking about annual return. So most of the participant has given the answer as annual return. Within 3 months from the date on which cancellation is short or cancellation order, whichever is earlier ki later, whichever is earlier or later, within 3 months from the cancellation date, cancellation order, or the date on which cancellation is short, whichever is earlier or whichever is later. Yes, Kavita, absolutely correct. So whichever is later. Great. In case of the annual return, the late fees has been rationalized. They have reduced the late fees, upper cap, or some per day also, from which for which financial year it is applicable, from which financial year it is applicable, the rationalization of late fees for the GSTR 9, for which financial year, from which financial year it is applicable. Financial year 22-23, right? So in case of the QRMP taxpayer, what is the compliance for month 1? What is the compliance along with the due date? If I am QRMP taxpayer and I have to do certain compliances for M1 and M2, what is the compliances along with the due date? मुझे कुछ compliance करनी होगी, and the nature of compliances and what is the due date in case of the QRMP taxpayer. The answer is IFF on month 1 and month 2. Due date is 13 after the end of the month. Second compliance is to pay the taxes by 25th of next month. That is the 2 compliances. Okay. Next question. थोड़ा मैं fast कर रहा हूँ so that we can cover some more question. Next question, that let's say on today, 17th July, I have furnished the GSTR1 for the month of January 23. मैंने आज GSTR1 January 23 का fill किया है. Now please tell me in which GSTR2A and in which GSTR2B the transaction would appear in the hand of recipient. July 23 को मैंने GSTR1 fill किया है, कौन से महीने का? जनवरी का. तो मुझे बताइए रिसिपिएंट को ये ट्रांजेक्शन कौन से 2A में दिखाई देगा और कौन से 2B में दिखाएगा? दीज आर द क्वेश्चन. 2 क्वेश्चन आई एम आस्किंग. If the GSTR1 of January 23 has been furnished by me on 17th July, please tell me in which month it will appear in the 2A as well as 2B to the recipient. 2A कौन से month का और 2B कौन से month का? Absolutely correct. The 2A would remain same, January GSTR1, so it will appear in the January GSTR2A in the hand of recipient. But 2B, because I am furnishing today, which is after 11th of June ka due date, so it will add in the July month 2B. Absolutely correct. Reasoning I have already explained. Now I am not going into the reasoning. 2A January and 2B July. Very nice. What is the concept of Rule 88C? What is the basic concept? Difference between these two written, then there is 2 course of action. Can you please give me the brief? Rule 88C, DRC 01B, and section 59, Rule 59, sub Rule 6. This talk about the difference between 2 written. Which written? Difference between 2 written. So the rules 88C, Rule 88C, which talks about the difference between 2 written. GSTR 1 and 3B. The difference is of outward supply or inward supply. जो वो difference देखेंगे वो outward supply की tax liability का difference होगा या inward supply का difference होगा? Which difference? Is it outward supply or inward supply? Absolutely correct. It is outward supply, GSTR1 or IFF versus GSTR3B. And we have discussed one thing, the difference is the 2 element we have discussed. If the difference is more than these 2, then the intimation would be served. वो 2 क्या चीज थी कि ये difference किस चीज से एक्सीड होना चाहिए. We have discussed two things, and I told you that it is keyword. You have to write in your exam if the question comes. If the difference is more than this, what was that two things in which I told you that connected with the word and? These two are connected with the word and. Can you please tell me what is the two things? If the difference is more than that, then yes, that action can be taken. The answer is amount and percentage. If the difference is amount more than the amount and percentage, whichever is specified, दोनों से ज्यादा होना चाहिए, then yes, they will serve the intimation. What is the time limit to give the reply or pay the taxes? What is the time limit to give the reply or pay the taxes in this rule 88C? What is the time limit to pay the taxes or explain the difference? Right, answer is 7 days. Suppose if I have not done anything within 7 days, neither pay the taxes nor explain the difference, then what is the replication of that? What is the next course of action? क्या होगा मेरे ऊपर अगर मैंने ना तो टैक्स पे किया ना ही मैंने डिफरेंस एक्सप्लेन किया within 7 days? Then what would happen? What would happen? What would happen if I have neither pay the taxes nor explain the difference within 7 days? Then what would happen? If I have not paid the amount or explain the difference within 7 days, then the action would be that I would be disabled to file my next GSTR1. Last question for the day. That can you please tell me one more situation in which GSTR1 would be not allowed to furnish? आप मुझे एक रीजन और बता सकते हैं जिसमें मैं अपना GSTR1 फाइल नहीं कर सकता, सब्सिक्वेंट GSTR1 फाइल नहीं कर सकता, अगर? दिस इज द लास्ट क्वेश्चन. सो वन GSTR1 का ब्लॉकेज का पॉइंट हमने डिस्कस कर लिया कि दैट इफ विद इन 7 days I have not explained or not paid the taxes, then yes, it can be blocked. And tell me one more situation in which I am not allowed to furnish my GSTR1. Yes, when previous GSTR3B has not been furnished. Absolutely correct. Thank you very much. Good night to all of you. Waiting for 1 more minute if you have any question. Otherwise, tomorrow we will have one more class on the invoice and debit note, credit note, and then only one more class would be left from my side, which we will probably complete on Sunday. चलो बढ़िया. So I hope it is clear to all. Thank you very much. Good night to all of you. Manish जी, आप वाइंड अप कर सकते हैं आज का सेशन.